just get right into it today because we are joined by the one, the only Dr. Jenn, Mann.
Hello.
What's going on? How I split my time between New York and LA, but I am in New York. I'm coming back to LA next week, but how is LA? I haven't been there in a minute.
It's a little warm. It's a little hot right now. The heat wave is kind of dying down, but it was not a fun heat wave.
I never think there's a fun heat wave. I'm like a fall person. I would be thrilled to just skip over the summer every
I'm with
year,
you. I am with you.
right?
Fall, winter, like cozies, like fires, roasting marshmallows, hot chocolate. I'm all for it.
I am all for it also. You and I almost met because we have a mutual friend, Allison DuBois. The last time she was in LA, there was some benefit that I was going to go to with like Melissa
At my
Rivers. And
house.
oh, that was at
Yeah.
your house. Oh my God. See,
Yeah.
now I really should have gone. Melissa told me about it and Allison told me about it. And I don't know. The date, I mixed up the dates. Like I'm like one of those that's very organized professionally. And then
Yeah.
personally, I'm like, it all blends together. And then afterwards, I don't know if you were with her. She was at the Beverly Hills Hotel, but we love Allison DuBois.
We absolutely love Allison. She and I met doing a Zoom TV pilot, and just we connected and we have become such dear friends.
She's a real one, right? Who would
She's
think we'd
so
be
real.
saying that about someone
Yeah.
that we originally met through Beverly Hills, right?
You'd be amazed. I have to say, I have been in Beverly Hills. I've grown up here since I was 3 years old, and I have so many deep, meaningful friendships from people in Beverly Hills that it's really amazing. And I think it really is very counter to a lot of what people hear about Beverly Hills.
I think so. I am a New Yorker, like I'm in the Hamptons in the summer. So like when I got a place in LA just for this job, because I was there all the time, I have to say, like, I am truly, I don't know if it's because I'm still new. I mean, I've been there over a year, but like I'm pleasantly surprised that the people in LA, I mean, like I was going to LA before, but it's different when you live there. People are a lot more, I find, real. I had this typical stereotype in my head, and I'm like, I find a lot of real good connections there.
And I think also at the end of the day, and this kind of goes back to psychology, I think we attract what we believe and what we expect. And I'm someone who's had amazing friendships with women, really deep, meaningful, profound relationships. And I have attracted that my whole life since I was a little kid too. Actually, Allison is like a newer adult friend of mine, but we have this really deep, meaningful relationship. And I think that if you find that you are only attracting superficial relationships in your life, you have to kind of look at, what am I putting out that's what I'm bringing in?
I think so. And I do say that, like, I always say, like, if I moved, like, I get it. If I moved
Yeah.
there when I was 23, trying to make my way in the entertainment business, A, I would have been miserable. B, I probably would have been a miserable person. And C, I probably would have had no friends. Like, I really moved there wanting nothing from the city other than to just do my job. And it was
Yeah.
already established. So, like, I totally agree with that. Did you always want to be a psychotherapist when you were growing up? Like, how did this, where did this come from?
Well, the running joke in my family, my parents are in the music business, and the running joke is I saw where the money was going. Like my father's first therapist, he was 18 years old. I was actually named after my father's first therapist, Dr. Jones, which I did not know until I became a therapist. So it's kind of the running joke. But the truth is, yes, when I was 7 years old, we had to do this coat of arms for our classroom, and we had to, one of the things was, what do you want to be? And I had a picture of me that I drew that said psychologist. So I think I departed from that, but ultimately came back because it's really what I am meant to do and be.
Wow. And you love it.
I absolutely love it. And when I went to college, when I went to undergrad, I was a mass communications major with a focus on television and print journalism, but ended up, based on a story that I did about date rape and some things that had come out on college campuses, I became an advocate. I started working for a rape and domestic violence hotline and knew I had found my calling and became a therapist.
And then through that job, is that what led to like Dr. Jen on Sirius?
Yeah. Well, what happened was I was very outspoken in grad school in a class I had about eating disorders, and the teacher was about to be on TV. She was, I don't know if you remember this, but Dr. Winnie King had a segment on Channel 2 Action News in LA, a local channel, and the teacher was going to be on that episode talking about eating disorders. And I'm someone who's recovered and was very outspoken in her class. And she said, would you be willing to talk about your experiences and kind of, as also a therapist to be, like, what your perspective is? And I said, absolutely. And it dawned on me, instead of helping one person in my office, I could potentially help millions of people in one sitting. And that really clicked for me. And we did the segment, and they ended up, there was another girl in the class, another woman who was asked to do it. And they ended up using mostly me, none of her, and a little bit of the teacher. And I was like, this is kind of interesting. And then I had a friend who was promoting a book about eating disorders and recovery, and she asked me to be on as a psychological expert, and it grew from there. And then one day I got a call from none other than Harvey Levin, who was doing a pilot called We Need Professional Help. And I auditioned for him. And afterwards, he pulled me aside and he said, no matter what happens with this pilot, you have to do this. You have a talent for this, and you're meant to do this, and you need to get representation. I was like, there's representation for people like me? Like, what do you mean? And he's like, yes, and you have to do this. And I often refer to Harvey as my godfather of television. So
Well,
here I am.
Harvey's a good one to learn from if you want to break into this business.
For sure.
And you really did cover it all on that show. I mean, you dealt with relationships, business relationships, depression. I mean, you really kind of covered the
Parenting.
gamut.
Yeah.
Is there one thing, from being a psychotherapist, like, is there one issue that you find, like, when couples come to you that is more prevalent? Like, is it always, like, do you see a common theme? Like, is it usually infidelity, money, trust, insecurity, all of the above?
I mean, look, I think it's all of the above. I would answer two things. One is a more superficial answer, one's a deeper answer. On the more superficial side, I would say it's communication. The couples are typically terrible communicators, that once you get past that honeymoon stage, you reenact a lot of the things from your childhood that are oftentimes unhealthy in your communication, which leads me to the deeper one, which is our childhood, that we are wired to recreate our childhood and replay things with the people that we pick. And once we get past that initial honeymoon stage, which is typically 18 months, give or take 6 months on either end, we are often stunned when our partner hurts us in ways that are familiar to us, but we also pick them because they had that ability, and it can be an opportunity to heal, or sometimes it's just an unhealthy choice.
Right. Like, it's basically playing into the way that you not really feel about yourself, but like what like that's what you know as a child. And therefore, this feels right, even though it's so wrong, because it's what you know.
Exactly. There's this thing in psychology called repetition compulsion.
I was going to
And
say that, but